So welcome everybody. This is July 28th, and we're going to talk about cost-benefit analysis using Safran Risk. This has been historically a topic that it's covered in our advanced trainings, but I wanted to do a webinar about it because I think that a lot of people can benefit from it. Yeah? So I work at Fairfield Group, as you can see in my background. And the Fairfield Group we are a platinum partner of Safran Risk, so we are in charge of their training and consulting services as well. We're based out of London, but we have global reach. I'm in South America, and we have some partners in Brazil, also in the United States, South Africa, and Europe, right? And Australia as well. So we have the global reach, which makes us very flexible. We work with a lot of industries. Yeah, I've collaborated with some of the biggest names in the industry, so that makes us that generates a lot of synergies between our team and a lot of experiences as well. So we're more than happy to take this type of projects with you. Now, what is it that we're going to do today? I just wanted to have this little introduction about us. Today, we're going to talk about project for cost-benefit analysis, right? And as you can see, we're going to talk about a solar energy project, and that was the promise of today, right? Now, as a little disclaimer, because I don't want to, for example, I don't know, you take the webinar and show it in an energy implementation, and you say, well, this is the duration of this task or the risk impact or risk probability of that. So that's why I added this disclaimer that everything that we're going to talk about today, scenarios, quantities, schedules, probabilities, monetary values, right, are fictitious, have been created only for demonstration purposes. Of course, we estimated it with some against some energy projects, but they are not meant to be a recommendation, right? So these are not going to represent the actual cost, duration, or profile of any real solar project, right? And the purpose of them is to demonstrate the cost-benefit analysis methodology and how Safran Risk can be utilized to model these uncertainties that we're going to see, these risk events, compare the mitigation alternatives, and support better risk-informed decisions, right? So that those things I wanted to really make emphasis on that before we start today, right? So we're going to talk about this 150 megawatts solar project, right? Like the one that we have here in the picture. I was doing research for this talk, and I found that we need like 300 hectares of solar panels for that, which is enormous. We valued the project more or less 150 million, right? That's the reference cost, the baseline cost, right? A year and a half, and we added 20 event risks to it, right? And the goal of the project is to develop, finance, build, and commission this 100 megawatts grid-connected solar photovoltaic plant in this favorable, right, location that could be anywhere in the world, hopefully, of course, favorably, ready for operation by mid-2028, right? And what is it that we're going to combine, right? We're going to combine a cost-loaded schedule, right? This is a resource-loaded schedule that I uploaded into Safran Risk. I will show it to you, right? Activity duration uncertainty, the 20 risks, and the mappings. Everything is going to be shown together. So don't worry that I'm not going to leave it like it is. I'm going to show it step by step. So we know what is the setup necessary to do this cost benefit analysis, right? And below you can see the 6 phases that we have that are here, right? So let me show it here. So we have the development of the project, financing, engineering, procurement. You see, we have big materials coming, the construction, and then commissioning. We have 9 main phases here, if you like. Each one is here. I'm not going to go deep into that, right? But from these 6 phases that I have, we have this, from these 6 stages, we have these 9 phases we have here that you see that the color of each one of them The development, you see it's in blue, the, I don't know, finance over there, construction, procurement, etc. Right? And the cost of each one of them. Now, I generated this high-level Gantt chart that you see that where we have, again, these nine phases, each one in each one of the 6 stages, right? As you can see, they are mostly a waterfall, like the initiation, site control, the permitting, the financials, engineering, procurement, etc. But you will have some overlap over there. You see that the design and procurement, they overlap intentionally because we know that we can do both in parallel. And also the construction, you see, the construction will start as soon as the first major equipment is delivered. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to set up something that is as real as possible, because of course I always have the ability to do a typical waterfall, finish start, but that's not going to reflect that. So why is that? Because we will face that some tasks will have float, right? And then when we add risks to a task that have float, we have to be very careful, because perhaps that's not going to have the effect that we want to add, right? So this is going to be the project, and the project is here, right, in Safran Risk. If you like, and let me do it here right away. 1 second here. If you write to me at gustavo@ferryfieldgroup.com, I can send you the presentation, and I can send you this. If you have Safran Risk, I can send you the file as well. These are for academic purposes only, right? So here, as you can see, I have the same stages and the same phases that we were talking about before. You see the project initiation, the site control. Now we have it with the duration, with the, I don't know, the flow, the predecessors, the resources, etc. Right? And that's what we have as the starting point, what we have here, right? Secondly, right, and just for you to have an order of magnitude in your head about the cost, remember, we're going to spend $150 million, but just for you to know, 60% of them, right, is procurement. Remember, all the materials, basically the panels and all the wiring, the structures, etc. And 17% is the construction share. So basically 80% of the 150 million is procurement and construction, right? Like this. So you have it in your head. Then we have the key milestones of the project, right? We have a feasibility gate, I don't know, the permitting date, the financial, right? When we have the NPP, when they say, you know, you have the green light because we're going to have enough money to build it. When it's approved for construction, with the blueprints are okay. When the major equipment comes, the mechanical completion and the operation in mid-2028, as we said before, right? Now, let's go to the risks part, right? And this is important. We had approximately, I would say, like 100 tasks. I would say we have more or less 100 tasks. 82 of these tasks, right, are going to have uncertainty. So you will remember that in Safran Risk, you will have this framework, right? You will have a framework when you have uncertainty, right, which is the natural oscillation of the, for example, the duration of the tasks, right? If I'm going to ride from A to B 20 times during the month, even though it's the same driver, the same road, hopefully more or less the same weather conditions, every time I'm going to do a slightly different one, right? Under regular condition. Now, I have uncertainty and I have my risks here, right? Like this. And I have my risks here. And these are going to be my risk events. So this is the framework that Safran Risk uses, right? You have uncertainty, you have risk event. So if we go with uncertainty, from the 100 tasks, 82 of them are going to have uncertainty. And we added it like this, right? Which is low uncertainty is going to be 23 tasks, medium 14 tasks, and high 45 tasks. So you see that I like this one. I really like this visualization, because even though you don't see the tasks, you don't see even when are the uncertainties, you can see the profile of the project. What happens if you have 50 tasks with low risks, right? So that means that the project is going to be lower risk. But in this case, you see that almost half of the tasks, they have high risk. So that's why we have that, right? See, I'm going to, here you go. Okay. Now, let's go with the risks. Remember, we have the uncertainties here, right? And let's go with the risks. As for the risks, you see that for the 100 tasks, 50 of them, 53 of them, we added event risks to them. I'm going to show you the mapping. And we created 20 standard risks. Standard risk meaning, standard risk, that's the name that Safran Risk gives to the risks, but these are regular risks, right? So we have these 20 standard risks, right? All of them were set up using pre-mitigation. You see, we got a snapshot of the risks, and all the uncertainty and event were using pre-mitigation setup. I will show it in a minute, right? We use absolute schedule impacts in days because that's normally when I've seen during all these years doing Safran Risk training, people utilize schedule impact in days and cost impact in monetary units, right? I know that we have the relative factors as well. So you will remember that in Safran Risk, you will have the ability to set up a risk in absolute and relative factors, right? Relative factors, they go with regular practice 57R of AAC, right? When you can include correlation using that, but in this case, we use the schedule impacts in days because we know that that's how the majority of people do it, right? Like this. If you like to see the concentration of risks, this is a really nice graphic, right? You see that I don't like pie charts. I prefer tornado charts, even if they are not in ascending or descending order, because you see here, you see that majority of risks are in the construction installation. That's the biggest one. And I will say here in the commercial procurement, etc. In a second, let's say in a second stage, right? For the first, by the main ones are the construction and installation. Again, going with this visualization, you see, this is a risky project from what I can see because the majority of tasks are there, right? They have a high profile in terms of uncertainty, a high uncertainty profile. And number two, where is the risk going to manifest the most? Remember, if you're experts, of course you know, but if you're sending this or showing this to an investor or to somebody that it's new to the industry, right, this is going to really help you. Because in their head, they're going to say, okay, the risks are in the construction, engineering, and procurement, for example, right? And the project is not a simple one, right? It's a risky project. Right? This is a typical qualitative assessment, right? I'm not showing this here because Safran Risk doesn't have any of that, but I know that the majority of you will do this, right? So why I like it? Because I know that risk matrices have a lot of shortcomings. I like it because they put risks on the table and they are part of the agenda. And this is simple to graph, right? So you will have several risks here, etc., etc. I am not going to go deep into that. Again, I'm not saying that you should do it, but if you do it, the benefits of that is that you put risks on the table, right, on the agenda. I don't like this, right? There's a lot of shortcomings about the risk matrices that I'm not going to explain today, but I know this is part of the process, right? After that, we created a risk quantitative register. You see, this is the risk qualitative register, and now we create a risk quantitative register. Why is it this quantitative? Because for the 20 risks that we have, we added this, right? We added a probability for each one of them. Of course, you have to set up this probability based on historical information, subject matter expertise, right? You have to do interviews, you have to create, right, and generate workshops that are going to put people doing this, right? And that's the main idea of that, right? To create probabilities for the schedule and the cost distribution. You see, as I said before, each one of the risks, they had this in days and they had this in monetary units, right? Safran Risk has monetary units, so you have to work on that. And for example, here you have the post-mitigation risks, right? As you see, this is the pre-mitigation probability, and we're getting there, right? And this is the post-mitigation probability. Why is that? Because we're going to use this structure to be the fundamental, to be the foundation of our cost-benefit analysis, right? Like that. So we have this. Remember that in Safran Risk, you have your risk here in project risks here. And when you click each one of them, what's going to happen is that you will see in the right panel here what is the distribution that you're using for the impact. If this occurs, remember that this risk has 30% probability. If it occurs, it's going to add 7 days, 20, and 45. This is a distribution, so it's going to fetch, right? It's going to fetch the distribution. It's going to fetch a sample from this distribution. Same thing with the impact, right? Between 750 and 6 million, right? And this risk is mapped to these 3 tasks, right? So lots of people, they don't see that, right? So this particular risk, the geotechnical conditions are weaker, right? So you think that the geotechnical conditions were better, but no, the risk is that they are weaker, right? So you have to remap. I'm sorry, you have the mappings here, the tasks. This is the tasks where the risk is mapped, basically, right? That's what you have, okay? And one important thing here is that you have the ability to have a pre-mitigated and a post-mitigated position, right? So you see that the post-mitigated means that after you apply an action, you will have this. And this is what we're going to see in a minute, right? So we have the risks. Oh, I have a question here from Foro. It says, which tab you use to show the risk quantitative register? It's the project risks, Foro. This one here is the project risks, right? So now what we're going to do, we added that. This is what I just showed you, right? Every risk has a potential schedule and cost impact. And they have a pre and post mitigation configuration, which is what I just showed. After you set up your 20 risks, remember, we have the schedule. We imported it from P6 or we built it in Safran Risk. We added the resource loaded schedule. It's a resource loaded schedule with resources and payments and all that. After you do that, of course, you validate the health of the schedule, then you add the risks into it, right? We have the risks here in project risks, and we configure all of that with a workshop with subject matter experts, benchmarking, academia, etc. All these potential methodologies. And once you do that, you have to map the risks, right? And this is what we have here. I have to do the risk and uncertainty mapping. Remember, we have uncertainties and risks. So to the left part of the divider, you have the uncertainties. You see that each task is mapped into one of them. See? So in this case, for example, you have this task. Finalize procurement plan is a high uncertainty task. But I have the achieve mechanical condition is a medium uncertainty task. Right? And here I have all the risks. Remember the 20 risks that I had before are here. So I can map, for example, risk number 10. Let me see what is risk number 10. Late design changes, right? So these late design changes are going to go here in the detail engineering and design. So in the design, normally I will have the design potential issues. So this is where I map the risks to the tasks. And of course, if I like, I can, for example, see task number 45, the design, what I can see, I can take a look here to the schedule impact, and I can see both the uncertainty and the risks that are affecting my task. And it actually runs a quick simulation here only for the tasks. So this is great because you can see what happens in real time with the task, right? Now, once I finish that, you see here, once I finish that, right, what I will do, I did the mapping, right, which is here. Right? I run the first analysis, which is the baseline for the project, right? And now we're entering the cost benefit analysis, right? I have prepared the project. Now you have a little bit of understanding of the project. And then I will take and I will include everything that I have here. And this is going to be the basis for the cost benefit analysis is going to be this screen. So this screen I'm going to show which scenario I'm going to use. In this case, for example, I'm going to include all the risks and uncertainties, and all of them are going to be pre-mitigated, right? Which is how we are now, before any cost-benefit analysis, right? Like this. And this is going to be the finish date of the project. As you know, as this is a resource loaded model, I can see the cost of the project as well, like this, you see? And you remember that we have like 150 million, so it seems we're okay, more or less we're okay. But Let's see how it goes with the changes, right? And we have that. And we have the finish date as well, right? Of course, I can take a look, and for those of you which are new to Safran Risk, you can take a look and validate the finish date of any one of the, in this case, of the 9 phases of the project, or if we have stages, etc., we can create all of that. Okay. So now that we have that, let me go back here, right? And this is going to be the baseline, as the presentation says. This is going to be the baseline for the project. If I run the model, if there's an option, it's called sensitivity analysis, which is going to basically run. See here, let me do it in the simple one. Yeah, this is going to be running and telling me what's going to be the impact of my main risks, both in days, you see, or in cost. Right? So I have my impact in days and cost, which is what I have here, right? Days and cost. And here I have my top 10 or my top 5 risks, however you like, right? In days and cost. And this is great because otherwise you will have only correlation coefficients, and it's very difficult to do cost benefit analysis with correlation coefficients. So in this case, I'm going to use that as well, right? So you see that I have the grid impact study, the power purchase negotiation, substation is delayed, credit approval delay, etc., etc. So I have that. And also you have the exposures in cost, which is what I showed you before. Late design changes, risk number 10, EPC contractor resources issue, grid impact study, etc. So this could be used because you see that this is great for showing you which are the main risks in terms of impact for cost and duration, which is great. But that doesn't mean, I mean, it would be ideal that I could apply a mitigation action to each one of them, right, in this order, and all of them have the feasibility of adding this mitigation action. That would be ideal, right? So what we did is we utilized this tornado chart as a reference, but we didn't follow exactly each one of the risks in the same order. Why is that? Because you don't always have the ability to do it, right? One thing is that you can think about things to do, but the other thing is that you can do things, right? So that's why we did it like that. Potential mitigation measures, I have a few here, like, for example, for the permits and environment, start the authority engagement earlier. For the grid interconnection, roll parallel grid studies. Define clear financial close gates criteria. You see, pre-qualify vendors, sequence crucial weather windows, etc. So you have here some ideas of things that you can do, right? And here I'm going to show you the methodology, and I'm going to show you the methodology while doing the first use case, right? Because the methodology has only 5 steps, and it's very, very straightforward and simple. First of all, we're going to utilize the distribution comparison and create a new report. What's the distribution comparison? Let me go there to Safran Risk. Distribution comparison is here. And what I will do, I will create a new report here, and I will do add report, which is here, and I will open the report. This is going to be methodology cost benefit case 1, for example, right? You can enter your notes here, etc. So what I will do, remember that what I did, I click on the analysis here, right? Run the 1,000 iterations. I already run it, right? You see, and then what I can do is I can take this and send to comparison like this. So what this is going to do is going to take the same curve that I have here, the same CDF or the cumulative distribution function that we have here. It's going to send it to the distribution comparison like this, right? Like that. This is what it's doing. And this is the first step. You see, prepare the baseline. This is it. Use the distribution comparison and run the baseline. So what I did with the baseline, remember, I loaded the 20 risk register and validated schedule and cost impact field. So what I did, basically, I took all these risks that I had here, included into the schedule through the mapping, and run the simulation, which is this. As we are going to use a duration use case, I'm just going to use the finish date here, right, like this. Then this is what we're going to do. This is the baseline, right? What we will do, we're going to modify a risk, add a mitigation action, right? Using duration and cost. We're going to most likely change the post-mitigation distributions and probability, right? And then we're going to run it again, right? And let me see. And then we're going to add the new curve to the comparison. Let's go to number one, right? Our use case number one, and I just left these other two screenshots just for your reference, because you're going to be able to reference back when you have the material, right? For example, we're going to do case number one. This is the expanded geotechnical investigation. Right? And what's happening is that you're going to have, the risk is that you have unfavorable geotechnical conditions. So what we're going to do, we're going to do a redesign of that. And let's say that we find an opportunity there, right? And what we're going to change, you see here, I'm going to go to risk number 5. And I think that after I do it for 2 or 3 risks, 2 or 3 cases, I'm sorry, you will dominate it. Yeah. So I'm going to go here to risk number 5, which is here, geotechnical. Let me put it in here. Oh, sorry, geotechnical conditions, which is here. Right. And you see that my duration is going to be between 7 and 45 days. This is the impact, right, that I have here, 745 days. And my cost is between 750 and 6 million, right? 750 and 6 million, right? Like this. As it says here, right, in the presentation, this is a cost case. So I'm going just to focus on the cost. So let me do one thing here. You see, as we're going to focus on the cost, what I will have to do, I'll have to go to the distribution graphic here, go to the cost, and send it to comparison like this. You see, and I have my finish date and my cost. You see, and the cost here, I will call it baseline. Right? Now, let me go back. And what it says here is that because of this opportunity that I found in this, after doing this geotechnical condition analysis and redesign, the cost, if this occurs, right, it really diminished, because you see that the minimum is going to be 500K, 750K, and 2 million. So that's going to be a really good outcome of this, right? So if I go here to the post-mitigated, right, see that if this happens and happens well, so it's going to be between 500,000 and 2 million, which is what I had here, 500 and 2 million. The schedule is going to be the same. But another change is that my probability after I did the redesign will lower from 30% to 10%, right? Lower from 30 to 10. So what happens? I have one scenario before I apply the redesign. I apply the redesign and my probability lower and my cost impact lower, right? These were the two things that changed. Now, what was the cost of this redesign? So the cost of this redesign was 5 days and 100,000, right? So I added a duration and a cost here. So the duration was 5 days and the cost was 100. When you add a duration or a cost, you have to choose which activity this is going to affect. What I did for simplicity, I chose, right, one of the activities that was being mapped here. But you can affect any activity, right? It's not a condition that the risk should, that the action should affect a mapping of the same risk. The action could affect any activity, right? I just did it for simplicity, okay? Now, what I did next, you see, from 30 to 10%, 5 days, 100K, right? So what I did, and this is something that you could try to do if you like, right, is that I created a pre and a post. Very simple combination. This is not my decision table at all. This is just one very quick analysis scenario. And I said, I have 2.79 million as the expected value of my distribution for the cost. And this one I have 916, which is good. So my expected residual exposure here was 837K, which is basically the 2.79 I have here multiplied by 30%. These two, they give me 837K. I did the same here. Of course, this diminished a lot. This diminished like the less than half. This was half. So of course my expected residual exposure now it's less than 200K, but I have to sum up the mitigation costs, right? My 100K, which are here. So from what I can see here, with only if I apply well this redesign, this is going to give me an expected improvement. That means that reduction in my cost for that particular risk, right, from 837 to 237, like 600K. Right? Basically, by investing 100K of real money, remember, this is real money, I have a potential decrease in my impact of 600K. But remember, this is not real money. This is potential money because you didn't spend it yet. This is potential money that could come later, right? So let me do it here. So I applied it like this, right? It's already configured. And what I will have to do to apply this, you see, I go to the analyze, go to risk number 5 here, and I change that to the post-mitigated scenario like this. Right? So this is how you do it. You run the first one, but you see that you don't normally run because I've seen many people doing this very, very quickly. And you see that if you don't follow these steps, first of all, you don't know the dimension. You don't know the expected value. You don't know what is it that you expect. You expect 5 million, you expect 10 million, right? What is it that you expect? A lot of people do it for experimentation, and that's totally fine. But if you're not formal, the moment that you set up the model for this experimentation, you normally lose track of things because you have so many variables, and that's why I wanted to show you this methodology, right? Like this, you have everything in one dashboard. So now I'm going to run the simulation now with the post scenario here in risk number 5, right? Like this. And what's going to happen is that you see, I'm not sure you see the flickering, right, of the cost. So what I am expecting is that with this change, right, I applied it to task number 15, right? So if you see task number 15, we can see it here in the risk mapping. Remember that in the risk mapping, you can also add columns here, right? You can do add columns. Let me see, let me add it again. Oh, where is it? Well, let me see, task number 15. This could be here. Right, number 15 here. So it seems, I'm not sure if this is or not a critical task, and that's what I'm trying to find, but somehow I'm not sure what happened with the Windows selector. Let me see it here in schedule, right? Task number 15, which is here. See? It has some float as well. You see, most likely it's not going to have any impact in my duration, but it's going to have an impact in my cost then. Remember that in my duration, I didn't have any impact. So what I did, I run the model. I just run it, right, like this. I'm not sure if I run it. Yeah, I did run it. And I go to the distribution graphic, and I'm just going to compare the cost. Remember that here, we were talking about a cost case, right? So I'm going to take to the cost, send it to comparison. And what is it that I will expect, right? Before I do that, remember, I have my first curve, which was like this, right? This is the original, this is the baseline. And what I would expect, remember that we're talking about 150 million, and this is 600,000. So what I would expect is something like this, right? A little curve. It's going to be very close to it, like this. So hopefully at my P80 here, I have the reduction that I'm looking for, right? But it's going to be very close. Remember, I'm not expecting a big gap here because of the magnitudes of the model. So what I can do is I can send to comparison here, you see, and this is more or less what happens, right? In this case, for example, in P90, take a look that you have, in P90, you have an addition, and in P80, you see, I have minus 600,000, which is what I was looking for. So this is case 1, right? Minus 600. So of course, If you like more stability in the curve, because you see that it's a little bit shaky, the curve, you have to increase the number of iterations. So you'll run it with 5,000, 7,000, 10,000 iterations, and it's going to be better. But this is what you should wait for. You see, you should choose also what is the percentile that you're going to use to measure it. And because you can say, oh, I'll measure it on the mean. Okay, so let's see in the mean, because it's going to be different. You see, in the mean is going to be 1.3 million, because the mean you have this change, right? In the P80 was like here, and in P90 was like there. Right? So it's very important that you know all of that up front. So you're not deciding while you run it. You have to decide it up front, right? Like this. So this is the methodology for one case. I'm going to go through a couple more, and I think that we have the time. So I'm going to do 2 more, right? And you will have the material shows like 5, but you see that it's I wouldn't say very repetitive, because you can do a lot of things, but it's just for you to show. So for example, here, another cost beneficial, right? Another cost case that is beneficial, right? Now you have a greater order of magnitude. So I'm going to go to risk number 2. So you see, always you have to take, well, what is the risk? The grid impact requirements here. What happens here is that the risk study, the grid study that I'm going to do, right, may identify network reinforcements late, creating redesign effort and higher interconnection costs. So I'm going to model a reduction in the probability and the impact. Why is that? Because I'm going to do a study before I start with this, right? Again, in this case, I decrease, right, this from 8 to 7 million, right? Remember, 8 to 7 million. And schedule, I decrease the days, right, of the impact of the risk from 15 to 50, right? Like this, from 15 to 50. You see here? 15 to 50. Before, it was 15 to 90. So it's a lot of change. But it's important to see, it's very important to see where is this going to affect, right? We have 27, 28, 48, 71, etc. So which task? I chose task number 25. So I have to take a look here to task number 25, right? And you see what happens there, right? So you see that the free float for this task is 0, right? Which is this, right? It's a critical task, which is good because the impact is going to be reflected immediately, right? Now, I will do it again. I will go back, right? I just remember that I already ran the analysis, right? So I already have my baseline. And what I can do is I can take this case 1, eliminate it with the delete distribution like this, clicking OK, and now I stay with the baseline. Why is that? Because otherwise I will have to do more and more reports, right? In this case, I just have to do it again. So I will see it here. I will run it again. Now with risk number, you can see what's risk number 2, right? Like this, risk number 2. I will run it again. Right? And what we expect, you see here, just going back here, is that we expect going that we have a very, very small, right? A very, very small decrease. Why is that? Because of the high cost of this mitigation, right? You have 600K. So I'm going to send it to comparison again, right? Like this. You see, I go to P80. Well, in this case, I have like 1 million. You see here, 1 million the cost, which is not much. Remember, it's a 150 million project, right? And what you could do, and that's the main idea of this, right? Now you know all the framework to set up things, right? So I'm not going to go deep into that. You have the current probability, you have the cost, you have how many days it's going to last, etc. Everything is already set up in the model, right? So what you can do is that, what if you go to a different provider and this different provider says, you know, but I can do this for, let's say, 450,000, right? I'm going to take the same 8 days. And they say, okay, that's fine. Let me analyze it, right? So it's risk number 2. So I here go to the Analyze tab, make sure that risk number 2 is in post-mitigation, and I run it again. See, and that's maybe if you want to compare different providers. So I'm running it again with 450,000, send it to comparison, right? Like this. And this is going to be, let's say, Acme provider, and this is going to be ABC provider, right? Okay, let me see. You see? And the savings were not that much, but maybe the savings are enough for you to choose the other one. See? Like this. So this is baseline and ABC, which is 1.2 million, almost 1.3. And this is baseline and ACME, like this. If you like, you can choose which ones you're going to see. Totally fine. You see? So you see now how the methodology works, right? The methodology is very simple. I'm just going to go for a third one. Now talking about duration, right? We have a cost case that was not beneficial. We're going to talk about the time case. Why is that? And why I wanted to show you, because you can do things with the advanced mappings. So let me go to risk number 18, and you will see what I did here. So risk number 2, let's go with risk number 18. You see that by each risk, which seems something very like innocuous, you see like a risk register, you have a world of possibilities here in the right panel, right? So with risk number 18, you see that I have 500, 2 million, 5.5 million, like this. 500, 2 million, 5.5. You see, it's a time case, right? And the schedule goes from 1030 to 75 for all mappings. How do you get this? And if you're new to Safran Risk, you can get these all mappings when you click here in the options and you click on advanced mappings or not, right? So here, and this is the one that really matters right now, is that the 10 days, 30 and 75 days are going to apply to all mappings. That means that if you get a sample and if the risk occurs, the sample is going to be applied to all 4 mappings, whatever it takes, right? So for example, if you have 20 days additional, these 20 days are going to be added to all of them, right? And this is how this was set up, because I wanted to do it for all mappings. But in my post-mitigation, what I did, I said, this is going to cost me 180,000. It's going to take 5 days. But what I did here, you see, I decrease the impact, which is here, 5, 15, and 50, right? But I also said, do not apply it to all the mappings. Apply it to a maximum of 1 mapping. So the moment that the risk occurs, it will take randomly one of them, and it will apply the risk to one of them only, right? So that's really, really neat, because you can control the overall impact, in this case, occurrence of the risk. So you can say, well, I have all of these mappings, but it's very, very unlikely that it's going to happen to all of them at the same time. Maybe it's going to be 1, or it's going to be 2 of them, right? And this is normally when you have risks that could occur more than one time during one simulation, so you can control that. Right? So it's very important that you know that you have access to it, right? Nice thing that you have here in the schedule impact as well is that you can apply the same, or you can spread over, right? So if you have an impact, let's say of 100 days, you can spread over these 4 mappings. So it's going to be 25 days each, right? So you can change the configuration of the pre versus the post mitigation, and that is really, really powerful when you do it in Safran Risk. So it's really great. So you see, it's risk number 18. I go back, and now you're experts, right? You go here, risk number 18, like that. I run it. But remember, what is it that we're going to configure now? What are we going to compare? Okay, it's time, right? So we have to run with the finish date, not with the cost. So I run the analysis here, right? I run the analysis, and we're not going to use the cost. We're going to use the finish date. Why can I send this immediately to my distribution comparison? Because I already had my baseline here. I just run the baseline, right? Like this. I'm sorry, here. So I have my distribution graphic, and I send it to comparison. And I will compare that. And you see, now I have a big difference. Now I have a month that I make, right? Why is that? Because I have 2 things. First of all, because I decrease from 1030 to 75, the impact to 5, 15, and 50, and also I reduce the number of mappings. If you like to isolate the impact of the mappings, the only thing that you will have to do is just to copy these same parameters here down below in the post-mitigation scenario. And that's it, right? So you see how it goes now. Let me show you again the methodology, right? Which is here, right? We prepare the baseline, run it, modify the risks, and I'm going to show you in a minute what is it that you can do, all the things that you can modify in the risks, run a new simulation, and add it to the comparison back. Here, maybe a 6th step is missing because it depends on what is it that you're going to do, is you share the distribution comparison, right? Like this. What is it that you're going to do with that? So it's very important that you know that this generates an XML file. This XML file, you can send it to anyone using Safran Risk, or you can use it to anyone, right, that could use an AI or an LLM, because you can take this XML and you can ask it to run it, to read it and generate a report from it. So it is not necessary right now, because now we have this LLM, right, to take this XML and only use it with Safran Risk. What you can do, you can take this XML and open in Excel if you like, but this is going to take you like good an hour and a half. With an LLM, maybe in 15 minutes, you can see the same report, right? That's great. Now, the nice thing about this, as you saw, for the distribution comparison, is that you can send the results of different models. You see that right now I'm using the same model to use and sending different results from different scenarios that I do here in the analyze tab, right? I can run different scenarios in the same model, but if I like, I can use this different scenarios from different models and send it to the same distribution comparison. The distribution comparison is independent from the project. That's very important for you to know, right? So now you have the methodology, right, in place. And what I did, and in the file, if you like it, again, I sent you my email. You will find it, right? You have this. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 cases, right, which are very, very attained to this solar project, to this particular solar project. You see, you have the unfavorable geotechnical conditions, grid reinforcement requirements, right? We need to do a grid study. We had an issue with the fabrication defects of the materials. We had the potential issues with the grid energization, right? And also we had some issues with cybersecurity and SCADA when we're talking about IT, right? So you have all of that, and the main idea is that hopefully you can have, this is a proposal, of course, but you can have some format like this when you do cost benefit analysis, so you don't forget about what is the dimension that you're using, what is the probability, what is the cost, the duration. In this case, I like this. It's a lot of work, of course. I mean, this was not something that you do in 3 minutes, but the moment that you do it, it's reasonable because you can just, of course, duplicate the template and you have everything well organized. You don't forget anything, right? And if you like, I recommend it, but it's up to you to have this potential, but this is going to be a deterministic preliminary analysis, right? Which is what I mean, if I do it like this, am I going to make enough of a saving for this analysis to continue or not, right? And of course, as I said before, remember that here, and with money, it's simpler. Here, you have an action cost, you have to write a check, right? This is real money. And the real money is making me save, right? Or not, well, in this case, not, but for example, here is making me save, right, potential risk money. So that's very important for you to remember. Now, in terms of what you can do with the advanced configurations, remember that I show you one, which is, of course, distribution can be changed. So between pre and post, one distribution can be, I don't know, a PERT distribution, and the other could be a triangular distribution with less or more. You can change the probabilities as well, right? Remember that I show you the number of mappings, right? I'm sorry, I show you the number of mappings, which is something that you have here, right? In the project risks, you have the all mappings or a maximum number of mappings. You can play, and this is really good, because you see that here what we're saying is that the action that we are planning that takes us to 8% in the action is going to be 100% effective, right? And that's not true all the time. It's like you hire a consultancy, and this consultancy is going to give you the answer that you need, whatever it takes. And that's not always true, right? Here, what you can do, you can alternate positions here, and you have a probability of execution, a probability that it actually finishes, that the mitigation action finishes. And if it finishes, you have a second probability, which is a probability of success. So one thing is that you've actually, let's say, finished the study for the grid, you finish it successfully, and the other is that it was successful or not. I mean, it really, I don't know, decreased the impact in terms of days and money, right? So you can make it more realistic if you like with this. So now, hopefully, these checklists are not going to be strangers for you, right? Finally, you have different calendar risks. So you know calendar risks, when you have this, when you have defined it, let me just show you one, for example, here, you have a calendar risk that is going to show you, and I'm going to show you here, you see this downtime patterns, right? Like this. So what you can do, you can define one calendar for the pre-mitigation and one calendar for the post-mitigation. And then you can compare both. So you see that the application is super powerful in terms of doing that, right? Now, not sure if you have questions about that. You see that I hope the methodology was simple enough to grasp it in this 45 minutes. I hope you liked it, right? And we have one question over there that I think that I didn't answer, which is under the pre-mitigation, can absolute be used for schedule input while using? Yes, totally. Bola, this is a question here. Yes, if you're in the project risks, for example, and I have my here in absolute in my schedule impact, and I can change it to relative here. So I can do anything. Yeah, it's super flexible. Super flexible. Thanks for that. Right? I'm not sure if you have more questions. Well, if not, I'll thank you everybody for joining. I will send you the link. Well, if you wrote me, I will send you the presentation and the model if you have Safran Risk, and I will publish this in our YouTube channel in I guess next week. But thanks everybody for joining, for making the time, and from wherever you are, good afternoon, good night, or good morning. Okay, thanks everybody for joining. Take care.